A very good morning, dear students. So in the last video we discussed about the internal structure of xylotum. So in this session again a very important subtopic in a xylotum, that is reproduction of xylotum. It is very important for your examination purpose also. So here the xylotum reproduce vegetatively as well as by spores here. Vegetative reproduction, the sporophyte as well as gametophyte of xylotum propagate vegetatively through the production of gymnid. They are a small multicellular and ovoid structures developing on surface of rhizome in the sporophytic plant body, or they may develop on prothallus in the gametophyte. After detachment from the parent body, gymme of a sporophyte may germinate to form a subterranean shoot, while the gymme of prothallus on germination from a new prothallus. So here this is a vegetative reproduction by gymme. So next, reproduction by spores. Spore producing structure. At maturity, many of the dichotomously branched aerial shoots become fertile and produce trilocular sporangia known as synangia. So here at maturity, many of the dichotomously branched aerial shoots become fertile and produce trilocular sporangia known as synangia. The mature synangium is generally a three-lobed structure, and each lobe of synangium corresponds to a sporangium. The synangia located at the tip of very short axis, measuring 1 to 2 millimeter in diameter and closely associated with the forked foliar appendages. At maturity, the synangium exhibits locucidal dehiscence. So it's nothing but it divides longitudinally here. And next, development of sporangium. The mode of development of each sporangium of the synangium of xylotum nodum is of eusporangiate type. Each sporangium develops from a group of superficial initial cells which divide periclinally to produce primary wall initials and primary sporogenous tissues, while in the beginning of the development of sporangia, here it is of a eusporangia type, right? The sporogenial wall of 4 or 5 layers is produced through a repeated periclinal and anticlinal of a primary wall initials. So here primary wall initials again divide into periclinally and anticlinally. The sporogenous tissues is produced from a repeated divisions of primary sporogenous cells in various planes here. So here you can see in a diagram here. Further development of sporogenous tissues gives rise to spore mother cell, and numerous spores are produced as a result of meiosis of the spore mother cell. So here later on it develops into a spore mother cell, and which again undergo meiosis to produce spores here. The spores are of equal size and shape, that's why they are called homosporous, bilaterally symmetrical, colorless and kidney shaped with a monolithic aperture here. So here you can see trilobed structure of the synangium which contain a spore mother cell. After meiosis it develop into a spores here. So next, gametophyte. Now you study sporophyte there. Here comes gametophyte. The mature gametophyte shows a striking similarity with a piece of sporophytic rhizome It grows as a sporophyte with an associated fungus here. Spores germinate exosporically to form a gametophyte. The mature gametophytes are brown, cylindrical, subterranean, radially symmetrical, and usually dichotomously branched, but may sometimes become irregular. The surface of the gametophyte is covered by long unicellular brownish rhizoids. The gametophyte grows by means of apical meristem here. In the transverse section, the gametophyte reveals cutinized peripheral cells which encloses many layered, thin-walled parenchymatous cells. Many of the internal parenchyma cells are filled with the hyphae of a symbiotic fungus here, as in a rhizome. It has been observed that in the gametophyte of tetraploid, that in a Xylotum nudum species, the center is occupied by xylem with annular scalariform and a reticulate tracheids surrounded by phloem and an endodermis. So this is the diagrammatic of a gametophyte prothallus showing Antheridia and Archegonia here. The xylotum is the only part in the plant kingdom where vascular tissue develop in the gametophyte generation. It is very important point. So here only a xylotum plant where vascular tissues develop in the gametophytic generation also. The external resemblance of the sporophytic rhizome and gametophyte coupled with the presence of vascular tissues in a gametophyte supported the homologous theory on the origin of alternation of generation. Alternation of generation nothing but a sporophytic and a gametophytic generation here. Next comes sex organ, that's nothing but a antheridium and a archegonium which undergoes into a fertilization. The gametophytes of xylotum are monoecious, that is a homothallic. Sex organs, that is antheridia and archegonia, are superficially and scattered over the surface of the gametophyte. Generally, antheridia are more in number than the archegonia. Male reproductive organs are more in number. So, structure of antheridia. The antheridium develops from a single superficial cell. That's an antheridial initial of a prothallus. So, from prothallus, the single superficial cell is developed. The periclinal division of the superficial cell produces an outer jacket initial and a inner primary androgonial cells. The outer jacket initial undergoes repeated anticlinal divisions and forms a single layered jacket. The inner primary androgonial cells divides in various planes and produce a mass of developing androgonial cells, the last generation of which are the androcytes. So here you can see anthrozoids. At this stage, the antheridium projects above surface of the prothallus as a minute protuberance. Each androcyte eventually becomes a spirally coiled, multiflagellated anthrozoid and escapes by the disintegration of the opercular cells. That's the upper cells here. So this is the development and the structure of anthrozoids, antheridia. Next comes archegonium. That's a female reproductive organ. The archegonium is also developed from a single superficial cells. That's the archegonial initials of the prothallus. The initial cell undergoes periclinal divisions to form an outer primary cover cells and an inner central cell. The anticlinal divisions followed by periclinal divisions of the outer cover cells produces a long projecting neck arranged in a four vertical rows of cells with 4 to 6 cells in each row. The central cell divides transversely to form an upper primary neck canal cells and lower primary venter cells. The nucleus of the nucleus of the primary neck canal cell divides to form two neck canal nuclei, and generally this division is not accompanied by wall formation, resulting into a binucleate neck canal cells. The primary ventral canal divides transversely to produce a large egg and a small ventral canal cell. So you can see here in the diagram, last you can see cells and a neck canal cells and a one ventral canal cell and a central you find a egg cell there. So next now you studied the structure of antheridium and archegonium. Next comes fertilization. At maturity, the cell wall of the lower tier of neck cells become thick-walled and cutinized. The apical tier, however, breaks away in presence of water and the mucilaginous contents of the neck cells are released. Thus, a free passage is formed for the entry of the anthrozoites into the archegonium. Fertilization is accomplished by the union of multiflagellate sperm and the egg, as you see in the reproduction in flowering plants, resulting in the formation of a diploid zygote here. So next, after formation of zygote, that's a embryo, new sporophyte. The diploid zygote is the mother cell of the sporophytic generation. The first division of the zygote is transfer, forming an outer epibasial cell that's directed towards the neck of the archegonium and an inner hypobasal cells directed towards the base of the archegonium. The apical epibasial cell ultimately gives rise to the sporophytic branch system, while the lower hypobasal cell produces the foot. This type of embryogeny, where the shoot forming apical cell is directed toward, is called exoscopic mode of embryo development. The foot anchors the young sporophyte securely to the gametophyte and absorbs nutrients until the sporophyte becomes physiologically independent. It later develop into the new sporophyte here. So you can see here life cycle of the xylotum. So first it develops by a spore, that's a synangium. That's a sporangium. Synangium develops into a trilocular structure, that's a sporangium, which develop into spore mother cells and later on undergoes meiotic division to produce spores. So spores again prothallus, that's prothallus undergoes an development of antheridium and archegonia. Antheridium develops into anthrozoites and archegonium develops into a oosphere egg. So both anthrozoites, that's a sperm and egg, fuse to form a oospores, that's a embryo. Again embryo develops into a new sporophyte. So here you find both generation here, sporophytic generation and a gametophytic generation, and here fertilization is syngamy. So that's why it is a having both alternation of generation here. So next comes economic importance of pteridophytes overall. First, ornamental value. It is having a ornamental, nothing but a decorative. Ferns are grown as ornamental plants in gardens and homes for their attractive foliage. For the attraction or for decorative, the ferns are developed. Drug, rhizome, and petioles of a Diopteris yield an antihelminthic drug. So, rhizome and petioles of Diopteris will yield into a drug here. Next, food. Sporocarps of Marsilia, rich source of starch and eaten for their nutritive value as a food here. The Marsilia, in Marsilia, the sporocarp is eaten as a food because it contain a, or it is rich in a starch. So these are the economic importance of pteridophytes. Here I think you all understood the reproduction of Xylotum, and here it completes our Xylotum example, right? Next we are going to study a new example of the pteridophytes. Okay, thank you.